So my name's Chris Cowland, SRT powertrain, escaped from the dyno for the day, so we're going to talk about this animal. 6.2 litre Hellcat engine, 707 horsepower at 6 grand, 650 pounds-feet of torque at 4,800, and maybe a number that you haven't heard, 411 pounds-feet of torque at 1,200 RPM. So put that in context, Rena mentioned that the Hemi produces 410 pounds-feet, so more torque out of this engine at 1,200 RPM than a Hemi does anywhere in the torque range. How did we build it and design it? Basically, we started with the Apache 392 engine, 6.4 litre engine, but as you look at it here, 91% of the parts in this engine are new. Obviously, the signature supercharger, 2.4 litre per rev displacement. We drive it at about up to 14,600 RPM, and this thing will put 30,000 litres of air into the engine in a minute. Just so you can understand the context of that, if you've got an office that's about 10 foot by 13 foot, it'll empty that office of air in 1 minute. Drive system for the supercharger comes off the crankshaft, custom designed damper. We have an overrun clutch on the supercharger and a 10 rib poly V belt. At rated power, that drive is about 80 horsepower. So we think of a 707 horsepower engine, we actually have to do 787 horsepower of work from the pistons to make this thing deliver 707 net. Some of the big changes, integrated intercoolers. So 2 intercoolers, one for each bank, running off the low temperature loop that Russ talked about. Basically take the charge temp down. Coming out of the rotors, we're running about 120 degrees centigrade. We go through the intercoolers to get down to about 60 degrees centigrade into the engine. So, and the low temperature loop in the vehicle is a big enabler for that. If we were running on the normal water system, we'd obviously only be able to run that down to maybe 100 degrees centigrade. So this low temp loop is a real enabler to help us make the power output. 11.6 PSI of boost. That actually results in a peak firing pressure on the engine of 110 bar. The Apache engine, the 392, runs about 80 bar. So you can imagine an absolutely huge increase in peak firing pressure on the engine. And to give you an idea, that's about 21,000 pounds of force standing on every piston every time it fires. So 4.5 to 5 sedans sitting on each piston. So fully forged pistons, forged conrods, diamond-like carbon coated piston pins, and induction hardened crankshaft bearing surfaces as well. So in order to be able to take all that power, all of the internals of this engine really needed some massive upgrades from the original 392. To take the engine and then get that power down to the road, 2 transmission offerings in Hellcat. We got the 8-speed Torque Flight 8 HP 90, which is effectively an upgraded version of the 8-speed that's been in production for us for a while. Basically, increased number of clutches in the clutch packs, the gears are wider, and we also have an increased number of pinions in the transmission. So 8-speed auto you'll get to drive today, really fun automatic. The manual is a 6-speed that's based on the Viper transmission, but to take all the increased loads that we see, it's got an integrated oil circulation pump and a separate oil cooler. So Viper, but upgraded to live with this particular engine in this particular vehicle. Each engine is manufactured in our Saltillo plant, so same manufacturing plant as all of the Hemis and the Apaches. One big difference for Hellcat is every single engine is run for 42 minutes on a dyno prior to delivery to the engine plant. So it's a mixed cycle. We do a number of engine checks to make sure that the engine's healthy. Runs to about 5,200 RPM and about 90% load during that sign-off procedure. So once you get the engine, when you buy the car, it's fully running. You don't need to baby it. That's about it.